6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the greatest homesteading channel on the planet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. Happy All Hallows Eve. It's the evening, the day before Halloween. It's a beautiful, beautiful October. I'm going to share my view with you just for a second. I'm just inside the wood lines, looking down over my house through the meadow there. Isn't it beautiful? Yeah, you saw my mower. That's my UTV. Getting a bit lazier in my older age, and I'm riding that thing around instead of walking everywhere. Seems like each year this property gets bigger. The hills get steeper and gravity becomes stronger, more powerful. Maybe you can relate. All right, so I'm taking a bit of a break, at least for today, from looking for the lost manuscript of Utopia Shattered, because I've been looking and I haven't been able to find it yet. I haven't given up, but it's kind of exhausting, so I'm taking the day off from that. I know that I promised you that tomorrow on actual Halloween I was going to read you a really creepy story. That's true. I am. And I thought about doing that today on All Hallows Eve, the day before Halloween. I mean, I even brought some creepy books up. True Hauntings Volume 5, stories submitted from viewers, mostly. And then I brought up the October Nights, of course. Parts 1 and 2, available on Amazon, print and Kindle. Autographs from the Etsy store, links in the description box below. I was going through there trying to pick out a story that would be nice and creepy to tell here the day before Halloween, so kind of scary. And I just can't help but think about something even more terrifying than any story in those books, and that is, to a degree and to parts of it, the world in which we live. Now, let me say to a degree, because we can choose which part of that world we live in as far as our society, our civilizations, our communities, and all that stuff goes. Me, I already showed you what I choose. Show you again in case you missed it. Yep, and in the front of this 6 acres, there's a gate that I keep shut. And it's not to protect society from me. It's to protect me from them, okay? So I like to keep to myself. I like the country life. I like to be in the outdoors. I don't like being around a whole lot of people. But in certain situations, I don't mind. Like football games, love it. You know, we go to all the home UVA football games. Just about all of them. Maybe miss 1 or 2 a year, or 1 or 2 every 2 or 3 years. But that soul trap of that 9 to 5, the rat race, being in the rat race, that's the part I avoid. And fortunately, I have succeeded in getting out of that rat race. And I always like to quote Liza Minnelli in regard to the rat race. You remember, she's Dorothy's daughter, Liza Minnelli. That was a stage name. She was the daughter of Judy Garland, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Liza Minnelli, of course, a successful actress in her own right. She said the thing about the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. And that's so true. And so let me get to the meat and the potatoes of this terrifying tale. Twice, on 2 separate occasions in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I actually went into town during the week, during busy times. Like, I come and go as I please. I work from home sparingly, time-wise. So when my wife and our son, if we want to do anything as a family, like go to a family place or even go shopping, we do it in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day. Because like the masses, those in that little rat wheel, they're in the rat wheels making the wheels go round and round, and so there's less people out, right? We avoid doing family stuff on the weekends because that's when all the people that Monday through Friday are making the rat wheels go around the rat race, they're out doing their thing on the weekends, and there's just too many people everywhere, so we avoid it. But twice in the last 2 weeks, I had to go into town, I had doctor's appointments. And so I had to go into town during the morning, I guess the morning rush hour, the morning period. One was during the morning period, and one I was out on it was like a midday appointment. But I caught the lunch rush traffic. And did you hear that? Wow. So I heard a loud thunderous tree knock, and many of you who have been watching this channel for a long time know that there's always been this potential Bigfoot Sasquatch X right here. It's like just part of the backdrop. It's almost like him, her, it, or they say, hey, this is our territory back here. Don't come back here. You stay on your side. And you know what we found, bro. When we have gone on their side and gone out there quite a distance, we found potentially the lair of Bigfoot Sasquatch. And we got that thing on camera like 5 years ago now. But if you'll notice, just off to the side of it, there's a new X. That's new. That wasn't there. So keep watching back there. And if you see movement, timestamp it so others can rewind or fast forward and take a look as well. So I was still a few miles out from this medical facility where I was going. It was the VA. Okay, I'm going to talk about that here, this part of the tale. I always leave with plenty of time to get there on time. I have an anxiety disorder, and one of the ways I cope with it is I just don't put myself in positions to activate it. So if I got to be somewhere and I know that, I make sure to leave plenty early enough so that I'm not starting to have an anxiety attack because I might be late. So I'm ahead of schedule, so I didn't mind when the traffic backed up. The traffic was backed up, and yes, I heard those footsteps. Keep looking behind me as I speak. Another tree knock. Wow, there's some activity back here on All Hallows Eve. So the traffic's backed up. I'm like, whatever. Hey, this is why I leave early, right? And note to self, clearly the population in Charlottesville has increased to the degree since I was out on the road during those hours that I might need to start leaving a little bit earlier. Okay, got it. Check. No problem. Then I notice, like I hear a car honking. So I'm in the right lane because I know the left's for passing, but some people clearly think it's for hanging out in. So I'm in the right-hand lane. Traffic is backed up. And there's it's like two cars back in the left lane. I see through my side view mirror this woman double bird flipping off through her rear view mirror the SUV behind her, which has 2 or 3 other women, very large women, honking and flipping her off. So I don't know, maybe she was hanging out in the left lane. It's as if someone or something just threw something at me. More footsteps. Guys, there's a lot of activity in here today. Aren't those leaves falling behind me beautiful? Sometimes people ask if this is a green screen. Nope. I just have a beautiful place. That's why I don't like to leave it. Especially you hear this story. So so the whole way until I get to where I turn off to go to the medical facility, they're doing this. And it made me think of this story, rats in a box. And the story is this. There's 2 parts to the story. I'll tell you the first part, and then I'll tell you why it was relevant later, because it'll tie into the story better. So a social experiment was done many, many years ago, and of course, they like to experiment with rats before they advance to humans, but they had a box, and they just put a rat in it. Well, the rat just enjoyed his little box, or her little box, or it, or there, whatever. It was a rat, okay? Well, then they put in another rat. Oh, hey, what's up, brah? Oh, nothing, brah. How are you? So these rats start communicating, socializing. Put in another, it's okay. They keep reintroducing rats, but they don't make the space any larger. And to fast forward a bit, by the time this box is like just overpopulated with rats, the rats are no longer like being like friendly with each other. They're attacking each other, they're fighting, they're biting each other. There's too many rats in the box, right? So I was thinking of that story, rats in the box, while I'm watching this. So I go into the VA, And what was it? Because, listen, nothing's changed. I was hoping that it would change. I've been out of the VA system for a while, but I jumped back into it a few months ago to try to, I'm a tier 1 disabled veteran. That's nothing that I really come on here and talk about much. But basically, if I get sick, if I get ill, if I get cancer, the VA will treat it, right? I'm probably going to die if any of that happens and I go to the VA. If any of that happens, I'm getting help in the private sector and I'm paying for it with my own money. And you're totally going to understand why. You want socialized health care? Go to the VA, okay? And actually have something wrong with you. So I go to the VA that day for my appointment. And it turns out I get there and I check in, because you're supposed to get there 15 minutes early, check in with your receptionist. They tell the nurse or the doctor you're there, then they come get you. So I get there and the receptionist's like, oh my God, we've been trying to call you all morning. What do you mean you've been trying to call me all morning? Well, they were trying to call me the whole time I was on my way into town, which of course my phone, the ringer, I keep it on silent mode. And if I'm driving, it's in my console. I do not look at my phone if I'm driving, okay? The only time I would even have it on maybe is if, I don't know, if my wife and son were somewhere not with me, well, whatever. It's like, I'm not a slave to my phone. Like, I'll use it even with my work to create my content here on this YouTube channel. All of our other social media platforms on Facebook, Sick Twisted Humor, which has over 1 million fans now. Instagram, Sick Twisted Humor, closing in on 50,000. Any Amazon affiliate marketing doing, I don't use my phone any more than 2 hours a day, despite the fact I use it to generate my income. Because I have seen, it has destroyed people, it's destroyed relationships. So anyway, people texting on their phone is now the leading cause of vehicular deaths due to vehicular accidents in the United States now. Passed up drinking and driving several years back, by the way. It used to be drinking and driving. Now it's people. I have a buddy that's a state trooper. He told me that when he started out as a state trooper and people were wrecking and dying, you'd see these skid marks just before the tree was there. He said in the last 10 years, skid marks don't exist. You don't see them. You just see a tree with a car crumpled up against a tree and the driver dead and their passengers. And you think, good gosh, it was the middle of the day. How did they not see that giant tree in the center of that turn coming? Well, because they were looking at their phone. That's why. So I do not touch my phone in the car. So the story at the VA is they were trying to call me the whole 45 minutes I spent driving into there to tell me the doctor didn't come to work that day, and so we needed to reschedule. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Things happen. I didn't lose my stuff, right? I didn't feel pressed, as the cool kids would say, and I didn't, what do they call it? I didn't crash out, as Gen Z calls it, which means lose your crap. I figure these things happen, right? Well, yesterday, I had to go back for the follow-up, the rescheduling, right? So there was also a procedure, and this is another reason why I want to compare the private sector of healthcare, where you get what you pay for, versus socialized healthcare, i.e. the VA. I needed to have something done. I tested for high cholesterol. I tested for high cholesterol, and my doctor immediately wants to throw me on a pill. I said, no, doc, I don't want to do that. I'm 50. I'm going to be 51 in less than a month, and I'm on 0 prescriptions. As a matter of fact, when I was seeing a doctor, because I got TBI when I was in the Army, traumatic brain injury, and I was talking to a TBI specialist at the VA about 6 weeks ago. Now, this was a virtual call, so I didn't have to go anywhere. He pulled up my files, and he was looking at it. And this is the first time we'd ever met, first appointment. And he's looking, he says, your file is not up to date. And he was going through asking me my home address, phone number, and all that. And he's like, yeah, all this is current. He says, this just doesn't make any sense. I said, what is it? And he said, the section for medications I'm not on any medications. Somehow they didn't put my medications in there. I said, well, sir, that's because I'm not on any medications. And he took his glasses off. He said, are you serious? And I said, yeah. And he said, now, how old are you? I said, 50. He said, you're the first patient whose file I've opened in more than a year that has no medication. And you're the only patient your age or older I've ever opened a file on that's not on a litany of medications. And so we talked, and did the test to see how far I've come with the, I guess recovering from the TBI, and I've come pretty far. I mean, my memory's not as bad as it used to be. What the hell was I talking about? All right, so anyway, the doctor, she wanted, and this is the one, by the way, when I first walked in and met her first time, told me I didn't look disabled. Asked me why I was there because I didn't look disabled. Like, doc, this is a VA clinic. You work for them. I clearly am coming here because I've been rated a certain percentage of disability, which is very, very high, from my deployment 15 years ago, and not all wounds are visible. I mean, do I really have to answer this question? That was the first question she asked me. So anyway, she wanted to throw me on a pill and I said no. I said, clearly I've gotten off track with my diet, because cholesterol, despite now how much you exercise and all that stuff, diet is so important. And I know this because I tested high many years ago. I made a slight adjustment to my diet and I had textbook numbers again. So I said, I don't want to take that pill. She says, what are you going to do? You're going to have heart disease and die, massive coronary, and you're going to die. Whatever. I said, give me 90 days and I'll just change my diet, tweak it a little bit, and I'll have textbook numbers again. I'm going to have to, not going to be able to eat as much as my wife's delicious Filipino food, because it's all fried in oil and grease, and pig fat is a large part of the menu, and chicken feet and all kinds of stuff that I just shouldn't be putting in my body due to my cholesterol. Tastes good otherwise. And my doctor actually is Filipina, born and raised in the Philippines, went to medical school in the Philippines. She's a doctor now over here at the VA. And so she totally understood the diet thing, because I told her what I ate. And she says even her 80% of her diet is Western, because she knows traditional Filipino diet will just kill you prematurely, right? So I go back into town yesterday. So I'm at a private facility. I'll give them a shout out, Martha Jefferson Hospital. I was in there a few years ago when I had a gut twist for 3 days, received excellent treatment. So anyway, it was an emergency situation, so I went to them. If I would have gone to the VA, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be dead. I mean, it can take you months, literally, to get an appointment. Even if they schedule you an appointment, because you go and you don't get your appointment, they'll cancel it. What they do is they overbook, because they're trying to hit certain numbers to satisfy management, and I thought this changed, but clearly it hasn't. So they will schedule appointments. Veterans will come into their appointments, they'll check them in, and then they'll tell them verbally, because trust me, you're going to hear it again, some excuses to why they can't be seen that day and they leave. But the home office, according to what they're seeing, the numbers, they're seeing patients, right? So there was a whistleblower that came out with that, and everybody was in shock. All the civilians, us veterans, were like, we've known this for years. That's how they do it. So I had to have this CAT scan done to see if there's any plaque buildup, because my doctor said, okay, well, we need to make sure there's no plaque buildup, and there's not. So I went to this one facility. I had the appointment at 12:30, okay? And then I had a VA appointment at 3, which is just across the road, literally. So I go in there. I'm in there 10 minutes early. I'm seen on time. They get me in. I take my shirt off, hook the things up, get me on this CAT scan, spin the thing around me. I'm out of there. I'm out of that building 15 minutes after stepping foot in it, because that's the private sector. And I had to pay. I paid for that. I was more than happy to pay $150 for that test. Whatever. My time is more valuable than that amount of money. Okay? And they didn't waste it. So I had 2 hours to kill. So I sat in that parking lot and I worked. I had my phone with me. I did actually go to a grocery store, run some errands, got some groceries, came back, sat in between Martha Jefferson and the VA. And I scheduled a day's worth of posts for the Facebook page, a day's worth of posts for the Instagram page, did all that stuff, so my time was utilized productively, okay? But I noticed something, and this is going to go back to rats in the cage, the life we choose to live, the decisions we make. On one side of this hospital, this public hospital, Martha Jefferson Hospital, there's a fitness and wellness center. Okay, it's a different company that leases a different part of the building. Middle of the day, right? A lot of you people think that No, I don't mean anything by calling you people. Listen, a lot of you folks think all this rambling I do is disconnected and doesn't have anything to do, but it all comes back together, and I'm coming to it right now. Remember I was talking about going out in the middle of the day to do stuff because all the people still running the rat race are out there in the rat wheels making the wheels go around? So who do you see when you're out there in the middle of the day? Retirees, right? I mean, during the school year, even the kids are in school. The middle-aged folks, young adults, well, young adults are in mom and dad's basements. Middle-aged people, through what used to be retirement age, people are still working because most folks can't afford to retire. Combination of just, not planning their economics properly, and then this runaway inflation the last 4 years. Tell you talk about having some mercy for people that grew up middle class. Come on, give us some, brah. I grew up middle class. I can remember groceries being a lot more affordable. Sheesh, that was one of the joys of being middle class, man. You got off them Gov stubs, food stamps, what do they call them now, EBTs? No more of that Reagan cheese or government cheese, man. Getting that middle class, you get to go buy that, what do they just have the recall on? I don't know. Sangornio, mild cheddar, whatever. So it's old people, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm working and I'm watching, and I'm seeing old people come and go out of these two different doors. I'm seeing retirees coming and going, mostly retirees, in and out of the fitness and wellness center. And I'm seeing retirees coming and going in and out of the medical center. Average age of the average man and woman I watched coming and going for that hour or so I was sitting there was probably 75. Now, to put it more accurately, they were really coming and going like this. The 75-year-old men and women were coming and going in and out of the gym like this. The 75-year-old men and women who were coming and going out of the medical facility were doing it like this. They were moving a lot slower. These 75-year-old people were hustling into that gym. They were skipping, they were jumping, they were running, maybe to catch a class. They were excited to see a buddy. And when they came out, they were walking with their chests out and their heads high, and they had this appearance of having just accomplished something. The people coming and going in and out of that medical facility looked like they should have probably died last week. And I know that sounds harsh, but that's just the truth. And I know we're living in times where truth is kind of a form of hate speech, but it's reality. And I'm sitting there looking and I'm watching and I'm like, what's the difference between these two groups of people? Demographically, they're pretty much the same. Age, stage in life, socioeconomic status, because we live in the same community, same rent district, right? Well, I would have to say it came down to lifestyle. I would say it came down to personal choice. The folks on the left coming and going in and out of that fitness and wellness center have lived active, fit, healthy lives, right? So here they are at 75 years old today, still living healthy, active, fit lives. One of them, actually, it's funny, I saw him as he was leaving this fitness center just as I was off to my VA appointment that I waited for 2.5 hours for in between this other appointment. Productively, though, I was working and ran an errand, got some groceries. I would later see that same guy stop to get a sub at some sub shop, and this dude was in front of me, and I was out of curiosity to prove my assumption here. I watched him order. He got a veggie sub and no drink. He had some kind of water with him. So he eats healthy, he's active, he's fit. Dude was probably pushing 80, and I guarantee you he's healthier than most people half his age in this country. Okay? So anyway, time rolls around for me to go to the VA for my appointment. So I get there. Appointment's at 3, right? So I check in at 2:45. Hey, I'm here for my appointment. The guy working there, he checks me in. He says, okay, you're checked in, have a seat. He had to actually turn around to help me out when he checked me in because there was a supervisor there in the little room where about 4 clerical people work, customer service people, and He's giving this spiel very loudly, making sure that he had everybody's attention on the new way that they're going to deal with faxes. The new way they're going to file incoming faxes. Yeah. I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, have I gone back to like the 1960s? This is 2024. I just sat in that parking lot and with my phone in 1 hour made about $2,000 or $3,000. And they're in here talking about faxes. But I'm like, let it go, let it go. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And there were 5 or 6 people in front of me. So 3 o'clock comes, they don't call me in. 3 o'clock goes. 3:15, I'm still not called in. But we're down to maybe 2 of the people in front of me that were there before me. And I'm thinking, how often do I do this? Like, never. If I wasn't here, I'd be at home sitting in my forest telling a story, or on my hammock on the front porch taking a nap, or maybe looking for the lost manuscript of Utopia Shattered, but whatever, no big deal. 3:45 rolls around. I've sat there for an hour, okay? By this time, maybe 15 minutes before this, the supervisor had finished his spiel on this archaic technology known as faxing. And because he left, and I overheard everybody in there say, I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to do that. I'm fixing to do it the way we always did. Something like that. They're going to keep doing it the way they always did. Okay, whatever. It's government. What do you expect? Busy work. That guy that was there to give the lecture probably has an in-law or somebody in management that got him that job. Nepotism that's not supposed to exist, but it does. They probably created that position to get that guy a job, right? Anybody who's ever worked in a government position, the military, post office, school systems in small communities, you know that they do these things. So I go up and I ask. 3:45, I'm like, because everybody in front of me is gone, and the people that came in after me were being seen. So I go over and I ask, hey, I've been here for an hour. I checked in. What's going on? Well, now it's a different receptionist sitting there. She asked me for my name again, last four, my social security number, looks me up, and she looks at the computer. She's like, I'm like, what this time? I think the doctor's here because people have been going back. And she goes, your nurse was never notified you were here. I said, I was here at 2:45, like I was supposed to be. I checked in, and I've been waiting. And she goes, oh yes, you're checked in, but no one never notified your nurse. And I said, well, I guess I'll just go sit right back over here while somebody notifies my nurse then. Okay, so I went over and I sat down. I'm sitting there, and she's sitting there staring at the computer, and I knew what it was. It was one of those, oh my God, what do I do moments. So then she starts whispering to the girl beside her. I'm like, clearly they're going to do nothing. They're trying to figure out what excuse to give me as to why I can't have my appointment today. Now, I'm only giving you 2 examples. 4 of my last 5 appointments never happened. I've spent more time driving into Charlottesville, turning around, and waiting. Because I waited out that 2-hour lull in between appointments, and then went there and wasted another. I waited 4 hours yesterday, so this has happened. I spend more time going to town, waiting, and coming back and not having appointments than I have spent in actual appointments seeing healthcare providers since I've attempted to jump back into the VA system here this fall. So I just left. I'm like, I've left. I've given them enough of my time, and I know the value of my time. I just spoke those numbers a minute ago, okay? So I was upset on the way home. Because then I had to drive home, and another reason I left instead of waiting longer is because I had to come home and pick up my son, go to football practice. He's the quarterback. I'm a coach. We have 26 kids and 2 other coaches depending on me and him being where we got to be when we got to be there. I can't give up. I can't disappoint 28 other people, and my son, 29, and myself, 30 people, because of this level of incompetence and miscommunication. So I did, and I left. So I was upset coming home, made it to practice on time, had a great time, great practice. We are now the only undefeated team in our league. The other undefeated team lost this past weekend, so we're undefeated, ranked number 1. We got 1 regular season game left, maybe 2, and then we go into the playoff season. We're doing really well. We got a great group of kids. So anyway, this morning, I was having coffee out here in these very woods, and I sat out here for 2 hours and I just stared into these woods, and you can probably see why. And I was out here when the sun was coming up, And I was thinking about the rats, the rat race, the choices we make. And I was remembering seeing the fit, healthy, old, aged people going into the fitness and wellness center. I remember seeing the obese, unhealthy, disabled, completely ill and sick people who were the same age as the others going into the medical facility. And I said to myself, you know what, Kevin? You are so healthy, it's ridiculous. And it's because of choice, health style, or lifestyle choice, diet. I don't abuse substances. I don't eat garbage. The only weakness I have is my wife's delicious Filipino food. I get plenty of sleep. I exercise every day. And I thought, just get back out of the rat race, man. And let's go back to the rats in the box. And gosh, do I wish I could find that manuscript, Utopia Shattered. So I'm going to tell you, for many, many years, I used to say this, and I don't want to give too much about the story away here, but Charlottesville, Virginia, to me, has always been a utopia. I'm going to tell you why. Or let me just say it had always been a utopia. I grew up in Appalachia. I spent the first half of my childhood in a mobile home court, growing up in a trailer. But after that, I grew up middle class. Yeah, whatever. We could afford groceries back then. But it was nice making the transition from the debit card to the cashola. I don't know, whatever. Charlottesville's like an upper middle class wealthy area, so it's just very beautiful. And then, I've been in war zones. I've spent 10 years in third world countries. I've been to some nasty places. Man, when you're in Charlottesville, Virginia, where the streets are so clean you could eat off of them, they're not paved with gold, but they're clean enough to eat off of. Like, my biggest problem I have in Charlottesville is figuring out which restaurant to have lunch at. Yeah, we're second per capita in the nation for restaurants, second only to Atlanta. I mean, it's just a beautiful place. It's got all the culture, the multiculturalism. You go into town and you're going to see black people, white people, Asian people, Latino people. You're going to hear a dozen different languages if you're paying attention to the people talking around you. I think it's a beautiful thing. There's multiple theaters. You got the sports associated with the university. We love the football games. It's just such a beautiful place. But even utopias can be shattered. There have been certain things that have happened in recent years that sadly show the times in which we live affect all of us, even our little utopias, as pleasant little sleepy university towns where people think they know so much, but they really don't, because they read so many textbooks and they watch certain headline news outlets. Maybe read an educational journal every now and then that they're not allowed to take out of the library. They must check it out, and it's not to leave the premises. They think they know quite a bit. And it's so neat having been to some actual places outside of the ivory tower and been shot at and mortared and blown up and beaten by large groups at times, and to come here and hear those people. It's almost quaint to hear that. It's like a naive innocence to hear these full grown-ass gray-haired adults with PhDs and EDDs talking about this wonderland. And it's like, I never want to leave this place. It's like everybody's got the rose-colored glasses on and we can all pretend. We have been invaded by some harsh realities in the last few years, and the rats in the boxes is becoming one of them. And this is not part of the story when I do find the manuscript, Utopia Shattered. But you remember the story I told you about the rats in the box? I was reminded of that story recently by a friend of mine. He's a friend of mine, he's a neighbor. And we get together several times a year. Probably need to get together a little more often than we do, but we're both very busy people. We're both business owners, we both have families, and we know that's our priorities. But we do like to get together and have some cold ones and solve the world's problems around a campfire. And I will be doing that with him again here real soon. We've been talking about it. But the last time we were doing that, he was talking about this thing. Now listen, this guy's very knowledgeable about the building industry, about the real estate industry, commercial and residential. And he was upset because, listen, here's where government trying to help people just put a bunch of rats in the boxes. It's kind of like the VA hospital. Okay? Got so many people coming in. they're not even seeing them. They're setting appointments, not even seeing them. But there's no accountability because, well, there will be, because listen, I busted them. I'm going to tell you how. But the guy said that the city council in Charlottesville recently passed legislation to where, like, there were certain neighborhoods. Historically, the council has tried to make sure the city doesn't become overbuilt and look like Richmond or Washington, D.C. Because Charlottesville, though it is a city, it still kind of has a small town feel to it. Well, we have an aging population. There are a lot of people in what's called the sandwich generation. These are the younger baby boomers and the older Gen Xers who are actually taking care of their aged parents and their young adult children. So they got the adult children in the basement playing video games and watching porn. Then they got mom and dad upstairs on the first level in the master bedroom watching them because they don't want to throw them in a home. And then they're upstairs hiding out in their bedroom, like sandwiched in between two generations. So the city council wanted to try to help these folks out. So there are certain neighborhoods in town where you're only allowed to have one single dwelling household. Well, they recently passed a law where you can have multi-family living structures. And the idea was that, somebody in the sandwich generation can now build a little mother-in-law shed out back, like a little efficiency apartment, put mom and dad out there. Then 18 months later when they die off, kick Junior out there. Hey, come on, Junior, you're like 28 now. It's time to at least live out there and play your video games and watch your porn. Right? So that's what it was designed for. Thought I heard footsteps again. Keep watching behind me. But what's happened is the people that have money have gone in and bought these lots up, and they're building multi-family living units like this, like these apartment buildings that are going up 8 stories with like 2 units per floor. One on this side, one on this side, one on this side, one on this side. That's a lot of money. For these, I'll tell you, there's a lot. I know some developers around here. Their families have been in development for generations. They're born into wealth. Their kids haven't even gotten anybody else pregnant yet, but those kids' kids at some point that are born 30 years from now are going to be born into wealth. They'll never dissipate. I mean, that's just... They have jumped in and they're buying up all these residential lots as soon as they hit the market. So, are the masses being helped? Nope. Are the lower income people who are living as multi-families in one household or multi-international people, like you get an Eastern culture, that's common. It's like a Western thing to, hey, you're 18, get out of the house, go, your generation, my generation, mom and dad's generation, let's all piss away money on 3 different houses. Let's piss away $2.2 million on 3 houses instead of all living in one. It's just crazy. And when you've lived in all these different countries, it all kind of flows together, and you try to pick the parts you like and live like those, but get rid of the ones you don't. The ones I don't is the rats in the box. And for someone like me who has the lifestyle I do and doesn't have to be out there in that, I look at that and I see all day, I kept thinking, the people that come into town and work and deal with this all day and go home, they've got to be an amazing group of people to be able to just deal with that and not lose your mind. But then when I was up here this morning having my coffee at 7:30 a.m., I was reminded, no, most of them have lost their mind because they're living like that. How was I reminded of that? Well, I live out in the country in the middle of nowhere on an old windy country road. There are certain times of the day I will no longer run, jog, or bicycle on that road because so many of the people that are living in the rat race that leave in the mornings to go to work in town and come back in the evenings on the way home, they are murderous in their vehicles. They have almost killed me so many times, I just won't go out there. Now, if I'm out there in the middle of the day, and I can do that this time of year because it's not too hot and humid, these old farmers, man, they go slow. They stay on their side of the road. They don't hit me. They give me a wide berth. So I'm sitting here at 7:30 this morning drinking coffee, enjoying the view, and I hear tires squealing. Then I hear a second set squealing. 2 turns up from me here. Then I hear horns honking, and I hear somebody yelling, F you. And about 30 seconds later, it's silent again. And I thought, wow, to have such a ruckus. It reminded me of the 2 carloads of vehicles flipping each other off, the women on the way to the doctors the other day. And I thought, well, you know what? These are those types of people. Those aren't the same people, I'm sure, but that's what this leads to. Before they even get out of this beauty of the country in there to jump in their little rat wheel for the day, they're already going at each other's throats like they're in that box. Whew, rats in a box, man. And you think you hear and talk about these 15-minute cities is going to make everything better? Are you serious? Are you kidding me? It's going to make everything a million times worse. I'll tell you. If I were a younger person today, I wouldn't be looking for that dream job downtown, because it ain't there no more. It's on your phone. I made more money in 1 hour on my phone yesterday than I used to make in a month my first year out of college. Okay? First couple of years out of college. And you grew up with this technology, young folks. Why aren't you using it? Well, I guess there's no incentive if you're in the basement. You got no bills. There is that. But anyway, I would get the hell out of that box. I would get out of those rat wheels. I would get out into the country any way I could, because I don't think it's going to get any better. What do they say in real estate? God's always making more people, but he ain't making no more land. People, you better get out there and get you some before there's too many of you and not enough of it. All right. Hope you got something out of that. Oh, the VA still sucks. Yeah, I understand that. Oh, here's how I got them. I told my wife yesterday, I said, I guarantee you they somehow went into their computers and made it look like, okay, so they check you in. The doctor and the nurse has to put some kind of notes about how the appointment went, okay? I said, I guarantee you they went in and put something either in the doctor's or nurse's notes about how the appointment went, or they took me out of the checkout like it was a mistake so that the home office doesn't see what happened. Guess what? Last night I got an email for a customer survey of how my doctor's visit with the VA went. I opened it up. They said, we saw that you visited the VA here and you saw such and so. I was like, oh, really, really, really? So I got to take a 10-question survey and leave a comment. Let's just say I wrote a 3,000-word essay. Everything I just told you in this video, there's rats in boxes in that essay. So they got it. Yeah. All right. Come back here tomorrow on Halloween, All Hallows Eve, to hear a really creepy, true, terrifying ghost tale for your Halloween night. And until then, be safe and watch all those rats that are out there. See you for more next time here at the greatest homesteading channel on the planet that has nothing to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid.